Welcome to our deep dive on closed mutual funds and the so-called transfer loophole. First, we will define what fund closure actually means. Next, we will explore how ACATS can sometimes move closed fund shares between brokerages. Then, we will cover risks, best practices, and a step-by-step approach to protect your position. Finally, we will test your knowledge with short quizzes and wrap up with key takeaways. Here is our plan. First, we clarify the meaning of a fund being closed to new investors. Second, we explain ACATS and why transfers of existing shares can sometimes succeed. Third, we outline risks like rejections and locking the position at the receiving broker. Fourth, we share the best practice of using a partial transfer to protect the original account. Fifth, we present a practical policy checklist to confirm with the receiving broker. Lastly, we walk through scenarios and check your understanding with short quizzes. Let's quickly refresh. When a mutual fund closes to new investors, the restriction targets new capital, not the shares current holders already own. Consequently, existing shareholders can typically hold or sell. Additionally, they may sometimes transfer those existing shares via ACATS. However, that transfer success is not guaranteed and depends on the receiving brokerage's policy. This sets the stage for why some investors can move positions, while others run into blocks. Before proceeding, a disclaimer. This video is for educational purposes only and does not constitute financial, legal, or tax advice. Brokerage policies differ and change over time, and fund companies impose their own rules. Always verify details with both your current and receiving brokers, and consider consulting a qualified professional for your specific situation. Let's define the key parties. First, the fund company sets closure policies and manages the fund's operations. Second, the delivering broker is where your closed fund shares currently reside. Third, the receiving broker is the firm you want to move your shares to. It may accept the shares, reject them, or accept but restrict further purchases. Finally, you, the investor, initiate the transfer, confirm policies, and manage the associated risks. Here is how ACATS fits in. A CATS is an automated system that moves positions between brokerages. Because closures target new capital, existing shares can sometimes be transferred, effectively bypassing the new money restriction for current holders. However, acceptance and trading permissions rest with the receiving broker. Therefore, even if the shares arrive, the new firm may block additional purchases, or, in some cases, reject the transfer entirely. This is why the workaround is real but conditional. Now let's walk through best practice. First, call the receiving broker and ask explicitly about policies for restricted or closed funds. Second, write down what you're told about acceptance, whether future purchases are permitted, how dividend reinvestment will be handled, and whether you can sell. Third, opt for a partial ACATS transfer so your original account remains active if anything goes wrong. Fourth, verify the exact CUSIP or ticker and share class to avoid transfers failing due to class mismatches. Fifth, if required, disable automatic dividend reinvestment before initiating the transfer. Sixth, submit the partial ACATS request and monitor progress daily. Seventh, once the shares post, confirm whether the position is simply held, sellable, or also eligible for new purchases. Finally, preserve a paper trail of all conversations and confirmations. Before initiating, use this checklist. First, confirm policies. Acceptance of the closed fund, whether future purchases are allowed or blocked, dividend reinvestment rules, and your ability to sell. Second, validate transfer details, ticker or CUSIP, and exact share class, that the account registration matches across firms, and whether the position is handled in a cash or margin account. Third, apply safeguards, use a partial transfer, keep the original account open, and obtain written or properly documented confirmations where permissible. Let's compare partial and full transfers. With a partial ACATS, you keep the original account open, which makes it easier to roll back or simply leave the position if a rejection occurs. It is also useful for testing the transfer of a single position before moving more. By contrast, a full ACATS moves everything and can cause greater disruption if the receiving broker rejects restricted assets. It is generally harder to unwind quickly if problems arise. Here are 5 critical questions to ask and why each matters. First, confirm acceptance for the exact fund and share class to avoid class or policy mismatches. Second, Ask whether you can make future purchases, or only hold and sell, so you are not surprised by a locked position. Third, understand dividend reinvestment policies, because they affect compounding and tax lot management. Fourth, ask what happens if the transfer is rejected to clarify rollback options and timing. Fifth, confirm any fees or special forms to prevent delays and unexpected costs. Be aware of common pitfalls. First, the receiving firm may reject the transfer. Second, even if accepted, the position may be locked from future purchases, leaving you only able to hold or sell. Third, dividend reinvestment might be disabled, which changes how distributions are handled. Fourth, fund or broker policies can change mid-process, affecting what is allowed after you initiate. Fifth, partial fills or timing differences can create tax lot complexities that you should monitor. Quiz time. The question is transferring a closed fund via ACATS a guaranteed right for existing shareholders? The options are A. Yes, always. B. No, never. Or C. It depends on the receiving brokerage's policy. You may pause the video now to think about the answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section of the video. The correct answer is C. It depends on the receiving brokerage's policy. Transferring closed funds is a workaround, not a guaranteed right, so the receiving firm may accept, restrict, or reject the position entirely. Consider 3 scenarios. In scenario A, the receiving broker accepts the shares but blocks new purchases, leaving you able to hold or sell. In scenario B, the broker accepts and allows trading, though this is less common with closed funds. In scenario C, the receiving broker rejects the transfer. In that case, keeping your original account open through a partial transfer provides an immediate fallback to avoid being stranded. Here is your next quiz. What is the best first step before initiating a transfer of a closed fund? The options are A. Start a full ACATS for all positions. B. Call the receiving broker to confirm policy on the specific fund. C. Sell and rebuy at the new broker. Or D. Open a margin loan to speed things up. You may pause the video now to think about the answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section of the video. The correct answer is B. The best first step is to call the receiving broker and confirm policy on the specific fund and share class. By pre-clearing acceptance, trading rules, and dividend reinvestment treatment, you can avoid unexpected rejections or locked positions. Here are the key highlights. First, closures block new money rather than existing shares. Second, ACATS can sometimes move closed funds, but success is not guaranteed. Third, using a partial transfer preserves your fallback with the original account. Fourth, always confirm the receiving firm's policy before initiating. Be prepared for limits on new purchases or restrictions on dividend reinvestment. To close out, remember these takeaways. Plan to use a partial ACATS while keeping your original account open. Confirm acceptance, the status of future purchases, dividend reinvestment, and whether you can sell. Verify the exact CUSIP or share class and the account registration. Monitor the transfer stages and check the final status once posted. Finally, document all conversations, including names, dates, and what was confirmed. Thank you for watching. If this video helped, please like, share, and subscribe for more. Share your experiences moving closed funds and your questions in the comments so others can learn from them too.